We're now going to move to two rather shorter presentations, which will lead us into some discussion. And our next speaker is Zeynep Gunay. She's a professor in the Faculty of Architecture at Istanbul Technical University in Turkey. And we're looking forward to what you have to say.
Okay, thank you. Hola to all. Hola. Before I start my sentences, maybe it's quite ironic that we start giving some examples from country chapters from Turkey, even a country, even not a European Union members, or maybe ever become a European Union member, but yeah, thanks to friendship that Richard talked about. So I want to start my speech by defining the rationale for housing renewal in Turkey. As you see, we have large amounts of everything to deal with the renewal issue. Of course, because of these large amounts, urban renewal or housing renewal has been an old issue for Turkey. Since especially in the 1950s, thanks to Marshall Aid came to Turkey in 1946, we started dealing with this renewal issue with the uncontrolled rapid urbanization, with the mechanization of industry, rapid migration from rural to urban regions. So all these uncontrolled growth resulted in large amounts of disaster-vulnerable housing stock, large amount of historic building stock to deal with. And of course, maybe one of the most important fundamentals after this long process of dealing with renewal process, they come up with an important necessity of new planning instruments and methodologies to respond to these newly opening pages for these renewal issues. We always like numbers, so I also put some numbers to give you the problematic scene in Turkey. As you see from the numbers, the housing stock is really quite new in Turkey, especially the majority of the building stock constructed after the 1980 period. But although they are quite young, most of the buildings constructed before 1998 should either be demolished or consolidated. So this number gives the fact that we have an urgent need for the perception of housing as no longer a quantity but a quality problem. And these are numbers from Istanbul. So this urgent need calls for Istanbul again because nearly 82% of total building stock in Istanbul are in need of renewal or reconstruction. So we have this rationale. So how we responded to this rationale, this really serious rationale. So from the 1923 to today, we had an examination of evolution of housing renewal policies. And as you see from the table, that while housing was an instrument for modernity project in the Republican era, after the 1945, the Second World War, it became an instrument, an economic instrument. So this changed all the mainstream renewal policies dealing with this renewal issues. So the large-scale property-led renewal schemes take the place of individual initiatives, takes place for initiatives for housing improvement, rehabilitation, or squatter upgrading and clearance. So the very important fact for this large-scale property-led renewal schemes is the fact that they also became a playground for the neoliberal urbanism politics in Turkey. So what is the instrument to play with this new instrument? We have a new law enacted in 2005. I think this law responds to Richard's question about how we have to call this process. As you see, our law includes all possible definitions of renewal. So protection, revitalization, deteriorated historic culture, immovable assets. So this law, as you see from the definition, deals with everything about urban environment and deals with every problem we saw in housing environment specifically, from earthquake risk mitigation to conservation and to retail, tourism, and social facilities. What this law brought was the fact that it really brought a centralized governance structure in a process that the local governance issues gained more importance. We had a backward going in that situation. And the key implementation instrument is urgent expropriation. So according to our constitution, urgent expropriation can be only used in national defense issues. So maybe the government saw this issue as a national defense issue, so they urged to use this expropriation tool. And of course, with this new law, we come up with new actors. And these new actors are no more planners, no more Ministry of Urbanism, no more architects, but we have Mass Housing Authority, we have corporations or municipalities as housing agencies, and most importantly, like Monse said, we have the private sector, which valorize this process with free of tax. And how they initiate this renewal framework, the financial system is generally based on long-term credits, generally 15 years of 200 euros monthly payments. But the most important issue to remark here is the fact that we don't know how these renewal areas are formed. We don't have any deprivation index, we don't have any scientific measures, but we have these beautiful maps showing us the new renewal areas. So now I want to tell you what this meant for historic peninsula as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. After the enactment of the law, starting from 2006, 8 historic renewal sites were announced, forming 37 neighborhoods. As you see from the map, it was a perfect match. All the World Heritage Site, the most valuable, important neighborhoods in Turkish history, was defined as renewal areas in Istanbul. What happened while these new definitions were coming up? Private sector valorized this process with the creation of new gated communities, transformation of old squatter areas, and also historic inner city neighborhoods. And especially, they turned Istanbul into a construction or marketplace with the help of Mass Housing Authority, which used these high-income projects as a resource development and revenue sharing projects. And the result is that you can't see any empty land without any government project in Istanbul now. So to cut it short, I want to show you the results of this new framework. This is from Sulukule. We were discussing it as a romantic or human project or a gentrification project, but we knew that the whole Sulukule neighborhood, the last Romani neighborhood in Istanbul, was demolished, and a new housing project was constructed instead and sold for the government members. This is from Ayvan Saray. The goal was perfect, to protect the historical identity. But see, we ended up like this. They erased all the neighborhoods in the name of renewal. And this is from Süleymaniye, again a World Heritage Site. Again, the goal was to provide a sustainable and livable urban settlement. But again, the result is that the total bulldozer renewal of these incredible, valuable sites. We only focused this law in our book chapter, but after the chapters, I think these were not enough for the government, so we came up with a new law. And this law covered the spaces which weren't covered with the previous law. So law on the transformation of areas under disaster risk covers nearly 6.5 million building demolishment throughout Turkey, and the Prime Minister started the demolishment live on all channels in 2012. 2012. On the other side, the United Nations Forced Eviction Community gives the fact that this means that nearly 2 million people only in Istanbul are under threat of forced eviction. So what can be learned from this process? Of course, all these examples show us that we have a change of emphasis towards an introduction of economic-led approach in housing renewal. So this gives a very crucial selection between reconstruction or reinvestment, but in Turkey, we stress on reconstruction. Another problem was the emergence of uncontrolled power with the redefinition of responsibility areas and empowerment of new actors as the mass housing authority and private sector, and these came up with bypassing all planning processes with its hand. And all these changes had a crucial impact on urban landscapes and resulted in the loss of collective memories in all historic neighborhoods in Istanbul. And of course, very importantly, all these projects neglect social objectives, which should be the primary target for holistic renewal, housing renewal initiatives. So this resulted in socio-spatial segregation, exclusion, displacement, whatever you call it, but a really serious social problem is going on in Istanbul now. So after all these analyses, we started thinking that what can be the future prospects for housing renewal. So all these words can be a cliche for you, but this is not a cliche for Turkey now. So it is very important to repeat the same keywords over and over. So holistic rather than hard renewal, please. Reinvestment rather than reconstruction. Quality rather than quantity, and maybe most importantly, household needs, inclusion, environmental values rather than private interest. So all these keywords lie under the very important goal to develop legal and administrative models to provide sustainability and continuity of existing housing areas, although they were deprived or decayed, whatever it is. So this will be a start of a holistic renewal strategy. Thank you very much.